Why your character shows up as a triggered responder. How a lack of emotional intelligence exposes your default emotions in your communication style. You have mood swings. People don't know who you're going to be from one day to the next. You get easily angered and display your instability. And this can show up in a lot of ways. It shows up mostly in your conversations and the way you talk to the people you love and see in your everyday interactions. It shows up in your performance at work as well. Your relationship suffers. So, what makes it worse is when people bring it to your attention, your bad behavior, and you feel attacked, like nobody understands you. Your responses even make the situations worse most of the times. Your default emotions, you use them to engage people. This is because you have not learned or applied emotional intelligence. In this video, I'll lay out ways you can take action to immediately transition yourself from the life of a triggered responder and poor communicator to a sophisticated communicator who manages their emotions, solves conflicts, and maintains thriving relationships. Okay, but listen, don't think that I don't understand where you are right now. I have been in a lot of situations and I have talked to people who on their everyday activities get into it with somebody. That happens because you haven't harnessed your emotions. So you might say, how can I stop feeling as if everyone is against me? Why am I suffering? I don't get the support that I need. And then so with that, I stopped talking about the hard stuff because every time I try to, it goes left. Oh, and don't talk about at home, because at home, I'm always at it with my mate. He doesn't understand me. He doesn't get me. He doesn't know how to love me because he's X, Y, and Z. Well, you know what? He may be X, Y, and Z. But if you don't know how to manage your emotions, you will not get the result that you want from him because you feel frustrated and angry. Frustration and anger is one thing, but when you're communicating with another person, you have to remember that they cannot read your mind. They don't understand what your emotions are. And it's not a man and woman thing. It is a separate person thing. Like you're somebody and I'm somebody. We're not doing the same things all the time. We're not having the same experiences. So coming to a conversation and all the time you're interacting with someone, you're frustrated and angry, that can be hard to deal with. So if your communication style is not on point, you're always going to have conflict. And even with that, 95% of people think that they are self-aware, that they know themselves better than somebody else does. You can't tell me anything about myself because I know myself so well. But only 10 to 15% are actually self-aware. And that's according to Business Harvard. Okay. So, but maybe you're the person who thinks that you're more emotionally savvy than the people you come in contact with. But unless you have studied self awareness and you use emotionally intelligent tools to build your emotional arsenal, you're part of that 95%. Join me in what I'm calling the sophisticated five, for the 5% of people who actually are emotionally intelligent. Okay. So the first one is to practice active listening. In order to do that, you got to do something that you don't want to do and you probably haven't had to do since you've been a mom and a boss in your house, or a single mama, or even a boss running a company. You haven't had to be quiet when you really want to say something. You are taking in what that person's saying to the point that if necessary, you can repeat back what they said. You're trying to understand their point. But unfortunately, you talk too much. You keep talking just to get your point across. And then because you're not listening, you're operating on the preconceived ideas that you have. And remember, you can only see what's coming through you, right? Part of emotional intelligence is also being aware of the other person's emotions. So if you're coming to a conversation or trying to solve a conflict with preconceived ideas, that's not going to work. But what will work is if you practice self-awareness. Self-awareness allows you to know who you are, to allow you to understand that you do have a position in every relationship and just what that position is. And you've set up boundaries. So now you have parameters, right? If you're self-aware, vulnerability is not weakness. Just because you're quiet when you want to say something, that's not weakness. It's strength. Let your yes mean yes and your no mean no. All right. And the third way that you can better your communications is to seek common ground. You're not going to always get exactly what you want. And, in order to solve a conflict, you don't always have to give exactly what the other person wants. And I mean, when you have a voice or start developing your voice, then you will find where common ground may be. What you can do is take advantage of managing your emotions so you can have the right response instead of a reaction. So seeking common ground is where you use emotional intelligence to know it's not always about you, and recognize that it could be about the other person, and managing your emotions allows you to have that discussion. I call it transitioning from a triggered responder, which is a person who uses their default emotion. So however it come up, it come out. That's just me. I don't bite my tongue. I got to say what I got to say. That's a triggered responder because you haven't considered some other factors that are important to maintaining and developing relationships. It's not all about you and about how you feel at every single moment, but you can transition into an emotional planner. And, in order to plan something, you have to do some introspection or some dissection or examination to really understand what some parameters are or what some things are that trigger you. So if you know what triggers are, then you can better plan how you respond to those triggers. We all have some work to do. It's important that you first look inside, be self-aware, then become an emotional planner, not a triggered responder, because the emotional planner already knows that if somebody comes to me this way, it's not about me, it's about them. If somebody does this right here, then it's about something in their past, it's not about me. You are the person that you can manage, not other people's behavior. So guard how you spend your energy, the self-gut check, therapy, self-help helps. Do what you need to do so that you can become an emotional planner. So start taking tips to become the person you want to be today. Learn more ways to apply emotional intelligence in your life. Hit the subscribe button below so you won't miss out on sophisticated tips to help you manage your emotions so that you can become the person to do the thing you've always wanted to do.